of all, if you made it this far into our series, we would like to say Chimigwech, which means a very big thank you for tagging along with us along this journey. This definitely has been very exciting. The last bit of our series, Karina engages in questions to help guide us and identify ways you could connect and learn about Indigenous culture, people, and languages. If we've missed anything, offended anybody, or overlooked a particular issue, we apologize. We just had so much content to cover in such little time, and we wish we had more time to spend with you. But we encourage you to take the suggestions on the upcoming shared resources that we have for you. Once again, we ask everyone to be mindful that when you are getting to know the land that you're standing on, you live, and that you work on, that you take into consideration the differences of the nations, the teachings, the language, and the ways of life. As we are all one people, we are many nations. So let's continue and learn about ways on how you could reimagine Indigenous culture through the arts and communities.
What are fun and creative ways people can learn about Indigenous culture?
One of the biggest aspects about learning culture is no matter what culture it is, just by doing it, you're learning through engagement and participation. As long as you come with an open heart and open mind, it'll always be fun. You could attend powwows. You could learn different styles of dances. You could see the different styles of dances. You could also take part in the intertribal dance, which is where it's an internation. It's a place where everyone could come and be part of that circle of life together and dance to the heartbeat of Mother Earth. You could attend Indigenous art and music festivals. And while you're at a powwow, take some time and go explore the traditional crafts or the paintings, the carvings, everything, the music, all in the artist pavilions. When you're at a powwow, you could also explore the different foods that there are there. You might find corn soup, fried bread, oven baked scone. You could even find Three Sisters soup. And of course, you could find tacos. You can search various social media sites and websites. There's a ton of learning resources that are Indigenous led online. Some of my favorite Aboriginal music and powwows.com, just to name a few. Be part of demonstrations and rallies. Go and learn and explore to know what they are fighting for. What are they standing up for? If you go out and ask questions and become supporters and become allies. Look up local friendship centers and agencies. Ask if they're acceptable to non-Indigenous people who want to come and learn. Find out what programs they have available for you. And everything is all on social media these days. So take a look at some apps, TikToks, and we'll touch base on that later on in the video.
Are Indigenous events inclusive to everyone?
Good question, Karina. Most of the big advertised events, such as powwows and music festivals and performances, they're usually open to the public. But it's very rare that you'll see advertisements to the general public to attend larger ceremonies such as sweat lodges, sun dances, rain dances. If there are ads, it is probably to a very small private group. And usually these events are not publicized due to the spiritual and healing work that's going to be taking place. These events are like any other place of worship, and we respect these lodges and these teachings. So it's best to call ahead and inquire to know about their exclusivity and what are the proper protocols should you be attending these more closed off private ceremonial events.
What are some things to consider when attending gatherings?
Some of the things to be mindful of when you're attending gatherings is to remember that you're always a visitor and you come and you be respectful. If you're unsure of anything, don't be shy. If you don't understand, don't be shy. Go ask questions. Go look for volunteers or the event coordinators, or go look for the arena director, or feel free to ask your neighbor beside you. If you're taking photos, please ask the people that you're taking photos of before you shoot. Don't touch regalias without permission. Don't be offended that you're told no. because people respect their sacred items, because to them it is spiritual to them, and it's significant to them. You come with an open mind and an open heart. And when you're visiting a powwow, it's considered to be a sacred place. So be respectful to the land and the people. No drugs and alcohol are permitted. And know the territory that you're visiting, their nation, their language, and understand that there might be some differences that you witness at a powwow. And when you go to another powwow, you're going to see they're not all the same. There's different dances, different songs, and different teachings. So come with an open mind, open heart, and listen to what the master of ceremonies have to say. And yeah, we just ask you to be mindful and enjoy your time at any of the gatherings.
We also had the opportunity to sit with an Anishinaabe language educator to share some words with us.
My name is Isidore Toulouse. I am from the Wikwemikong Unceded First Nation, and I am a Anishinaabe language teacher for the last 38 years. I currently teach a online Anishinaabe program where it's been the last 2 years. Actually, I've been doing it for the last 10 years, but this year has been every day for the last 2 years during the pandemic. And it's I've had maybe 50, 60 students logging in on a regular basis, and it's a program where someone can learn to speak the dynamics of the language. Simple repetition words, simple repetition sentences, simple everyday words. Language, it should be taught to anybody and everybody that wants to learn. It doesn't have to be just Native people. It could be white, Chinese, black, any race can learn the language. The benefits to that would be understanding the dynamics of the true original people of this country, of both Canada and the US. And that's the process the colonialists have been doing all these years to try and eradicate who we are as Native people. So I think it's time that resurgence continues or revives as to we showing who we are as Anishinaabe people, instead of reading what the history says, his story, the white history books. I think we are smart enough to know and share our beliefs, our history, our knowledge of who we are. Small advice. I think the whole knowledge of that, the language being a cultural base, the language being coming from the land, like the word kinomage, ake, teachings from the land, akinomage. That means we're learning from the land. Minabema de ziwin, the living the good life, living that life well in ake, with the earth, akinomage. They can join my language class by logging into HTTPS, those two dots that are on top of each other. What do you call those?
Colon?
Colons, right? And then backslash. And then 78236669 dot myownmeeting.net.
Chimigwech Isidore for sharing a little bit about you and your free online Anishinaabe Moang class. We encourage everyone to take a look at his website and feel free to drop in and learn a little bit Ojibwe language.
What are some ongoing campaigns that bring awareness to Indigenous issues?
There are plenty of campaigns to bring awareness to Indigenous issues, such as Every Child Matters or the Orange Shirt campaign, which raises awareness about Indian residential schools and to ensure that every child matters. Bear Witness Day is a day to show support to First Nations youth and to call on the federal government to address the long-standing discrimination faced by First Nations youth. Idle No More calls on people to join a peaceful revolution to honor Indigenous sovereignty and to protect the land, water, and the sky. MMIW is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Woman Movement, and it stands for all the missing sisters whose voices are not heard. No Pipelines, Land Back, or Water is Life. These movements are all related to defending the land and protecting the waters against improper land developments and failing to negotiate with Indigenous leaders in honoring treaties and Aboriginal Indigenous rights. The Moose High Campaign and I Am a Kind Man are movements by Indigenous men and boys who are standing up against violence towards women and children. She is Indigenous is a national campaign honoring the strength and contributions to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit women across Canada. We encourage you to look up these campaigns and other campaigns that will help you better understand issues faced within Indigenous communities. And don't be afraid to attend these rallies and to be a supporter and an ally to help our voices to be heard.
How can I educate myself through social media?
Right now, social media is like one of the very popular spots of learning Indigenous culture, learning about Indigenous dance, learning about traditional ways, learning about living off the land, learning songs, a style of powwow dance, learning about the medicines, learning about the significance of smudging. If you just use different hashtags like Native TikTok, Buy Native, Native Pride, Indigenous Art, Indigenous, First Nations, Aboriginal, Métis Art, Métis, Inuit, Northern Canada, you'll find a whole wide of resources out there that specifically focus on Indigenous culture and people. So I encourage you to take a look at all these different hashtags through the different social media sites. You could also take a look up on YouTube if you want to learn about treaties, Indigenous lands, rights, and the history. If you're looking for fun and interactive things, you can look up Anishinaabe language, Cree language, Inuit language, Mohawk language. There's a lot of beginning resources out there to help you learn the basic language of all the of different Indigenous languages. You could also take a look at our guest Isidore, his website, which is online Anishinaabe. He offers free Ojibwe language classes. Yeah, so enjoy social media and explore. We covered a lot of content in these 4 short videos. I feel like we didn't even have enough time to explain everything that we wanted to explain. But in One People, Many Nations, video 1, we want everyone to understand that although we are all Indigenous people, Aboriginal, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, we want you to understand that there are differences between nations. We are not interchangeable between nations, as we all have our own ways of life, ceremonies, songs, dance, and natural laws. What you learn amongst the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people is not going to be the same teachings on the East Coast, West Coast, or even Northern Canada. We hope that you take time to understand and learn about the treaties, the nations, the culture and the people and the communities that you are visiting.
For video 2, which was engaging through song, our intention was to provide some shared knowledge about the drum and give you an opportunity to engage in the culture by learning the song. We enjoyed having Michelle join us and share her song Soar with us. And as Joni shared, when singing with Michelle, she looked beyond the skin color, as Michelle's heart is positive and loving, and she carries the songs and teachings with good intentions for her sons and grandchildren. We hope you enjoyed this video and that you continue to learn Soar. And as for me, my favorite part of the series was learning the song Soar. I believe you guessed that. This was my favorite part of the series, as learning the song with Joni and Michelle for me was a really lovely experience and one of my favorite portions of this video series. Sharing that moment of harmony and rhythm made me feel very warmly welcomed and included, as the flow of the song allowed the three of us to connect as one through synchronization of Indigenous tunes, also not minding our different backgrounds. Believe it or not, the name of the song does not just stand as a title, but also as a feeling you experience when singing the song, as the change of the and progression of the tunes and notes give a feeling of flying. And I also feel a sense of relaxation whenever I sing the song Soar. So if you did not learn the song back in video 2, I encourage you to go back and learn the song, as it will be a blast of an experience.
From roadkill to porcupine, this was my personal favorite video. We took you on an exciting journey of learning about traditional craft of birch bark, sweetgrass, and porcupine quills. Through the video, we wanted to focus on the goals of the Ontario Cultural Strategy. We're promoting culture by engaging you in art demonstration by Aboriginal artisan Joanne Shawana and her techniques of quill work. Through the discussions of harvesting, it was to inform you about the strength within communities, that artists and harvesters support each other through the trades and shared knowledge. By supporting artists, by attending their shows, purchasing their crafts, and artists is supporting harvesters, everyone is fueling the economy. Your support shows your appreciation to the culture. Lastly, we are promoting the value of arts through government, and we want you to be an ally by supporting proposals and calls to the government to help revitalize language and culture in Indigenous communities. And we also want you to become allies through project partnerships and reach to those Aboriginal artisans and have them come out to your community to teach about their Indigenous crafts. Overall, we understand the hardships Indigenous people are facing and reliving through the traumas and impacts of the Indian residential schools. Everything that we face today stems from these experiences and stories. We had acknowledged these experiences in the beginning of our series, so everyone can have an understanding of the culture that we are regaining and promoting. Moving forward, we hope that everyone can listen and learn of these experiences, but find ways on how you could be supportive to Indigenous people and find creative ways to learn about our culture. Once you find yourself in a good space and start to understand, you will fully understand why our people fight for everything they fight for: our land, our waters, our culture, our language, for the sake of our children and future generations.
Before we go, we would love to remind you that we are not choosing to overlook the traumas and negative experiences of Indigenous people and community, but rather, we take a more positive approach as a solution towards addressing and combating these issues, rather than just pointing them out. We understand that people's knowledge and ideas about people and cultures stem from what they have learned, and oftentimes, a lot of the learning process is done through the media, which tends to sometimes over-exaggerate and most times focus on the negative aspects and news regarding cultures. This has been the case with news surrounding the Indigenous community on the media, and the frequent feeding of this negative news concerning Indigenous community and culture play a huge role in the negative stereotypes and negative unconscious biases people have formed about Indigenous people and culture. And these lead to racist acts and unfair treatments towards Indigenous people. So, we decided to feed people with a positive and vibrant truth that surrounds the Indigenous community through displays of beautiful Indigenous arts, teaching Indigenous songs, and educating them with the truth about Indigenous nations and people, while also answering questions that non-Indigenous people might have. With the hopes that this positive education and engagement we have offered about Indigenous people, culture, and community will allow people to see the positivity around the Indigenous community, and that this positive view of the Indigenous culture and community will influence positive treatment and combat acts of racism towards Indigenous people, and in turn, serve as steps forward towards reconciliation.
Miigwech, we hope that you enjoyed our series.